Jacki Gemelos is here to disrupt the game again, this time literally with Disrupt the Game. We'll talk all about agenting and the winding path to get there. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
Hey, Howard, how's it going?
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. More than 170,000 of you turned out in November alone just to listen to us and show up the way we show up for you 6 days a week. Of course, it is not just me. It is the incredible team over at thenexthoops.com, where we cover women's basketball, over 100 reported pieces every month. We had 1.2 million readers in November alone. So we are grateful for all that you are doing to support us. Make sure you subscribe, $9 a month, $72 a year at thenexthoops.com. And we have covered the game in a variety of ways, and I have been delighted to be able to cover today's guest in a variety of ways, but there's a new role for Jacki Gemelos, who is now working at Disrupt the Game as an agent. Jacki, of course, a tremendous player at every level. Jacki, thank you so much for coming and joining us. We're going to talk in segment 1 about your path here, segment 2 about the life, but just at the start, just take me through that young woman growing up in California. Did you ever envision being here in this moment?
Well, hey, Howard, thank you for having me. Appreciate the amazing introduction. Well, to be honest, I thought my path would have been a little bit different as a young girl growing up in California. Basketball was everything to me. It was my passion from when I was a 7-year-old little girl playing and practicing with my dad, rebounding for me. My older sister, who's 15 months older than me and always better than me at everything. So I kind of thought that my path would probably be more consistently in the WNBA. I endured a lot of injuries in college, and I think that kind of threw me off path a little bit. But I was still able to figure it out and play on the highest level and play in the WNBA for a few years, and then play overseas basketball at a high level. And then, after my transition from playing, I tried coaching for a season with the New York Liberty. And then I got a corporate job and worked at Nike for a couple of years. And then here I am, now a sports agent. So I guess that young girl growing up in Stockton, California, never thought she would be a sports agent.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But it's so interesting to me. And so many lives work this way, right? You just outlined, and we'll get into it a little bit more. But those experiences kind of set you up perfectly for this role, this VP of talent representation with Disrupt the Game, the company founded by Allison Galer. You look at it now, and obviously it's a deviation from what you thought. And listeners, you ought to know, I'm not going to take it for granted that you guys know. Jacki, back at St. Mary's High, she averaged, I love this, 39.2 points per game. McDonald's All-American, Miss Basketball of California, on her way to college as one of the most decorated high school players of all time. But Jacki, as you mentioned, you've gone through, it's multiple ACL tears, right, that you had to overcome.
Yeah.
Take the listeners through the injury. Give us the list that you had to overcome, because to me, even more amazing than the work you put in and the type of player that you were was what you managed to overcome to play at the highest level at all.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. There was a lot of unfortunate injuries that happened throughout my career. I had 5 ACL tears and 10 knee surgeries to date overall.
You had 5?
Yeah, I had 5 ACL tears.
Once you were a pro, like when did you have those?
So I had my first one the last game of my senior year in high school. It was in a playoff game. We were on our way to a third state championship. Tore my ACL, and then that unfortunately made me miss my first season at USC. And then I did it 4 consistent times in a row, like every year, pretty much at USC. And at the time they were using an allograft, which I don't think they use much more. So who knows what the reason or the cause was, why I had so many injuries, but that's what happened. But I was still determined to play, and I was still determined to fulfill my dream of being in the WNBA, because that's what I felt like I was supposed to do. I had dreams of being one of the best players in the world. And I looked up to people like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, as a younger girl. And I felt like I wanted to be on that level and be on that same, stature, if you will. So unfortunately, the road was a bit different, and I wasn't able to get to that level and the level that I wanted to be. But there was nothing that was going to stop me from being in that league. And I didn't care how many years it took, how many times I got cut, how many rejections I had to go through. It was just something that I knew I wanted and needed to do for myself and to prove to myself. And basketball was my passion, so I enjoyed every bit of it.
And I remember our path crossing because you were drafted in 2012 in the 3rd round. You were cut by the Lynch. You were cut by the Lynch in 2013. You did not let it stop you. And getting that opportunity in the 2015 season with the Chicago Sky, just, having that breakthrough moment, does it power you in this work to be able to know what it meant to you and to be able to see and provide those opportunities for players who are coming on the path behind you?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot that goes into being rejected and being told that you're not good enough, and being told that you need to work on XYZ in order to play at that level. And I think all of those lessons and all of those hardships that I endured really, really propelled me into having the mindset that I do with being a sports agent. I know what it's like to be cut. I know what it's like to not make a team. I know what it's like to not feel valued. I know what it's like to feel like you should be on a team, but you're just not. There's not enough roster spaces, or whatever the cause may have been. There's a lot of experiences that I've taken from my career playing, from my short year coaching, from being in the corporate world, from all the experiences that I've had. I really want to use those experiences to be able to excel in this role as a sports agent and do it with a lot of care and true passion for wanting to help these women and wanting to take their business, on and off the court to the next level.
I mean, no question about it. And again, even as you're pursuing this WNBA dream, you're playing overseas, and you can speak to this more authentically, I think, than I can, but I think you hit the Greek triumvirate, that if you were able to play for Panathinaikos and Olympiacos and the Greek national team, right? That's the triple crown of Greek basketball, correct?
That's so funny that you know that. I love that you said that. That is the triple crown. I don't know what did you call it, the triple crown?
I did.
Okay. That was an interesting situation over there, playing for 2 of the most, competitive rivals in, I don't know, the world perhaps. And then, switching to go to the other club, it wasn't great for me. I'm also Greek. So I got a lot of backlash from the Greeks at that time, but it happens. It's sports, it's business. Playing in Greece was an absolute phenomenal experience. And then being able to play for my country and representing Greece and representing my family, the Greek Americans all here in the United States, was just an absolute monumental time in my career.
Listen, Jackie Robinson got traded from the Dodgers to the Giants, so these things happen.
Here it is.
in the pursuit of sports, to be sure. But again, that other part of it, right? You've played internationally, so you have this unique insight into what it is to balance the career here in the States with the career overseas. Yeah, how valuable is that on a day-to-day basis with what you're able to do, working at Disrupt the Game as well?
Yeah, I mean, playing overseas and playing in the WNBA, obviously two very different leagues and very different situations. But it teaches you to become adaptable and to basically just figure it out and go through things, whether you're with someone or not, but most of the time you're there alone, and go through things alone and figuring out how to live in a different country and how to like the same food, how to speak, some broken form of Italian or Greek, or, just trying to communicate with your coaches and your teammates. So it's a lot of adaptability that you have to have.
Yeah.
And then learning how to, become a family and become a unit with just a completely different culture. And then, you go to the WNBA and then you're treated, at a completely different level, more resources, completely different situation, but equally challenging, just in different ways. But I think that all of those life experiences and basketball experiences definitely formed and have been able to help me, excel in this role. Definitely.
I'd love to see it. Adaptability, I think, is the watchword when it comes to your life. Jacki Gemelos, really enjoying this. Back with you in segment 2 in just a moment to talk about how it's all come together at Disrupt the Game. But first, I want to talk to you at home about FanDuel. And FanDuel has an offer that, for those of us here in the Northeast, it may not resonate quite as much, but there are other football teams other than the Giants and Jets. And the offer is that FanDuel customers, new customers, get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. That is $150 if your team wins. So look, maybe you're feeling lucky. Maybe you think Tommy DeVito is the future quarterback for the New York Giants. Maybe you're willing to overlook the fact that even Zach Wilson doesn't want to play quarterback for the New York Jets. But maybe bet on one of the other 30 teams in the NFL. And you can do it at FanDuel with so many different ways to use the app: spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. Again, that's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So we're back. And Jacki, I just think it's such a great fit. I'm so curious how it came about. So take me through. You're working at Nike. You coach with the Liberty. You're working with Nike. Now, obviously, you know Allison Galer for some time. When did you guys first meet? When did the first idea come on for collaboration?
Great question. So I met Allison when I was in my final season at USC in 2012. I met her through my assistant coach at the time, Michael Cooper Jr. They were doing some work together on a clothing line. Allison was young. I think she was 22. She was full of, a lot of energy. She was hungry. She was just a delight to be around, and just such an inspiration to be around. I love the fact that she was so young and she wanted to be an agent. She knew that she wanted to be an agent. She worked, she did some work with the LA Sparks as an intern. That's how she met Lisa Leslie, and that's how she signed her first client, was Lisa Leslie. For someone to do that at 22 years old, and someone, a legend like Lisa, to trust her at such a young age is, to me, just, it speaks for itself. So when I met Allison, I already had an agent at the time who I was happy with. I had no issues with. But it was just kind of like meant to be that I met Allison, and I was like, you know what? Like, I want you to be my agent. And this was in 2012. So we made that transition together, and we had, a really, really awesome journey together. Of course, we had some ups and downs. That's normal. But I think at one point we just became family. It was beyond a working relationship. It was beyond a friendship. It was more like a family member. So I stuck with her throughout my entire career. I trusted her with everything. And then I would say towards the end of my basketball career, when I started to figure out that I was going to have to stop playing because of my knee, her and I talked about, the idea of me working for her, and she would make jokes. She was like, you don't want to work in this industry. You don't want to work, you've been a player this whole time. Like, you don't want to start servicing these women and having to do everything for them when, you've been a player. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I feel like I have a lot to offer in this space. And so we just started talking and dreaming.
So in terms of giving it a shot, it's so interesting to me, and with Disrupt the Game, it's a client base that's really diverse. You got WNBA folks, you got some NWSL players as well. Obviously Crystal Dunn, significant in the soccer space. Sinead Wumake has very different, let us say, needs within her career than Kelsey Mitchell does, than Elizabeth Williams does, than Lisa Leslie, who isn't playing anymore. And so to navigate that, how comfortable, how excited are you? I guess even better is the idea of like knowing that there are different challenges on a given day. You figure out what it is these different clients need to disrupt the game.
Yeah, I think you hit it. I mean, a lot of what I've been doing so far is learning from Allison and learning how she operates with different clients and how she treats different clients. Like you said, they're all very different and they all have different aspirations and different paths and different things that they're interested in. And it's just been really fun to be able to work across all of these women and learn and figure out what they need, what they want from me, how I can help, how I can, help Allison throughout all of it. But the coolest part with this roster is the fact that everyone is different. And I don't think we have very many players, if at any, that kind of overlap and kind of go in the same bucket. And I think that that's really important for how we decide who we want to represent and who we would like to recruit. And we try our best to not have too many players that are alike, because I know how that is as a player. It's, you want the agent who's working for you to not have very many players like you. That's just how it is, because if they get something and you don't, then that's just a feeling that doesn't feel great. And then you think that, oh, maybe my agent's working for them more than they're working for me. So I always keep these things in my mind too when Allison and I are talking about recruiting and talking about who we want to represent. Like, we're very mindful of that. And I think that that's just, an awesome piece to our roster for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's something notable and something that is noted by your clients as well. I'm interested to talk day in the life, what that looks like for you, along with just the future for you and disrupt the game as well. We're going to get into that in our final segment in just a moment. But first, I want to talk to you guys at home about Prize Picks. And Prize Picks, it's daily fantasy, but it's not your standard daily fantasy sports experience. That's why it's the largest DFS platform in North America. There are a ton of different ways to play. You play, you know the basics by now probably. It's any 2 to 6 player stat projections. You're working against your projection, not against anybody else. You are playing against yourself. But now, the NBA season is here and the NFL season is here as well. So you can do this thing called combo projections. You can project across football and basketball from the Specials League. It's a league that allows you to combine, for example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combination of 3-pointers made and receptions. So we're halfway to, my daughter, who's a Taylor Swift fanatic, be very excited. We'll almost get to the point when, and maybe someday we'll do like number of Taylor Swift album releases and Travis Kelce reception. So obviously that's the dream. But for now, already you can do so much and even play against other Prize Picks community members like rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz. You just go to the community plays under the promos tab and join their league. How you do it? Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA. Daily fantasy sports made easy. So obviously it'd be great if you guys ended up representing Taylor Swift, but assuming that's off the table for now, let's talk about just going into 2024. I know we talked offline a little bit about this, but it's a different landscape than it was even a few years ago. It starts younger, it's figuring out who you want to represent, who aligns with your values at an even earlier age. Just kind of take me through that process. And when you think about 2024, it is in a lot of ways, it is a boutique firm. It is a place where you're able to cater to specific players because you are so selective. Do you have like a set number in mind of like how you'd like to expand in the coming year?
Yeah. So I think for us, it's quality over quantity, and which is, I guess why we're a boutique agency for now. I believe that we, go through certain players and we both decide, hey, like this person, would be a really good fit, or maybe this person wouldn't be a really good fit. I don't know if we put a number on it necessarily, but I think it's just who we feel that we could do really well for. And we don't want to bring a player on or an athlete on that we don't feel like we can completely maximize their career and, take their business to the next level. So I do think that it's a strategy almost, and we want to make sure that we are servicing the client to the best, of our abilities, because it's a serious thing. As a player, you want good representation. Now that it's starting so early, that is just, a different space that we are slowly starting to tap into. I think that there's so many agents that go after players at such a young age now that we've talked about, maybe we don't go after the really young ones. Maybe we wait until they go through their first agent and, feel like maybe they want to switch after. So then here we are as their second agent or something like that. We've toggled and played with different ideas, but the business now is representing young athletes. So we will have to get in that space. And I think that is a really exciting space to be in, and also a very good space for me, particularly because I think I have a lot to offer these young women just as a former player and a former coach. I think that I can mentor a lot of them and give them something that maybe they wouldn't get from a different agent who has never played at that level. I'm sure if Tisha Pinachero was listening to this, she would understand where I'm coming from. Being the only other agent, I believe, that's a former player, but there could be more. But yeah, so it's just a really exciting time. We're super excited to dive into that younger space and see, how that goes. Yeah.
It is fascinating to see. I want to leave you with an open-ended question. I'm curious your thoughts about it. And it's two ways. One is, what would you now, if you could go back and tell 15-year-old Jacki one thing to keep in mind, what would it be? And just the reverse of that, what is one lesson from the young you that you take and apply on an everyday basis in your work today?
I've thought about this before, so I have an answer, which is great because I think what I would have told myself is to cherish every moment. And I think that for me is something that I tried to live by after I was injured. I was not playing for 5-6 years straight, and I promised myself after I wasn't playing that when I get healthy again and when I'm on the floor consistently, that I'm going to cherish every single day and be grateful for every single day that I'm able to play. And I think maybe before all of my injuries, I took that for granted a little bit, and I could have maybe enjoyed the process a little bit more. But yeah, that's what I would tell myself. And that's something that I would want to tell every 15-year-old and every young basketball player, soccer player, any athlete. Just enjoy every moment and cherish it, because you never know when it's going to stop. You might not be able to stop when you want to stop, but you have to stop because of a certain reason. So yeah.
I love that. As a point of personal privilege to our listeners, it has been an honor covering Jacki Gemelos at every level. I am delighted that we get to continue to do that. I'm grateful for your time, Jacki. I love that your phone is blowing up in real time as we're doing it. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And to our listeners at home, thank you for making time for us every day. Be back with you tomorrow. Lynn Dunn, General Manager of the Indiana Fever, who has a big weekend ahead coming up with the WNBA Draft Lottery, always has the spicy take. So I look forward to that. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Thursday.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.